Hello, this is Bonnie, and today I am going to be making more of a mixed media type project. I'm going to be using texture paste and ink and to create this, the flowers on this card. And I'm also going to be using some other things from Lisa Horton, and some of those products are going to be, this one's called Floribunda Elements, and this is really cool. Because you can see on the cover here how you have all these different elements and actually you stencil it all at the same time. So then in turn there is an embossing folder that comes with a die, and that die will cut all of those out at the same time as well. So that's what I'm going to be working on, and I was going to give you a little bit of introduction to this product from Lisa Horton, which is a really big staple for her products. This is called the Ultimate 2. There was an Ultimate, just basically Ultimate, didn't call it a 1. And the reason why she went ahead and made the 2 is because the first one had a hinge on it, and it's stamped very similar to the Misty. And Misty has I want to call it property, or not property. They have patents. They have a patent on it, and so Lisa's not able to sell that version here in the U.S. So I actually have the U.S. version, and it works great for me. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you a little bit more about it. When you get this product, it has this base in it. And when it was made originally, this actually adhered your paper really well in place. And that's what that intention was for this. It works great as a medium matte as well. The biggest feature for this is the peg system, and it's how you attach, and I will show that to you as I'm working. It attaches your stencils. If you have more than one stencil, this works really, really great to keep them in place. So there's more details to this product, like there's openings down here that carry tools. There's also a die that will cut any of stencils if you make your own, or if you want to update your stencils you currently have in your stash that fit these holes. So that's just a little bit briefly what this device is. Also on the back there's a scoring tool, but it does not coordinate with the ruler. It's just, I can't remember if she says it's every 1/8 of an inch. I don't remember. I don't use it very often, but I use this all the time. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the next thing. So she has made an additional item that comes with the Ultimate 2, and that is called the Tacky Mat. And this tacky mat is like, I want to call it silicone or polymer, I don't know which. And I have right now this plastic on the top to keep it clean. And what it does is it will adhere your paper and not move it around. It will also keep your stencil on if it's a little bit bigger than your paper. So I think that's basically what I want to. And also underneath this, I actually put this film that comes with it, so you can actually put your anything you want to in the center and just do it that way as well. But I'm going to be using the peg system, and I've turned mine to the side because that's how the stencil works. So this is the stencil that you'll be getting, and this is exactly, I mean, you open it up, and this is the stencils. And in this case, I want to show you something else. And I don't know if you can see it or not, but each one of these has a number, and that's the order in which she suggests for you to build your design. So I also look at the stencil picture as I'm working. Now I'm doing something a little bit different because I'm adding the texture paste. When you add texture paste, that completely changes what you would normally do if you were just going to be making the stencil. So I have cut a piece of cardstock. It's I'm not really sure how stiff this is, but it's relatively stiff. It is not a water-based. So you just want to make sure your paper is larger than what you're working on, unless, you know, you don't want part of it in the design. So I'm going to lay that down. That keeps that in place. And then I have my stencil that lines up right on top of that. It's really cool. Now I'm going to bring you a little bit closer so you can see what I'm doing, now that you know what the tool does and what the purpose is behind it. So this is my first layer. As you work with Lisa's stencils, you kind of understand how she layers. She kind of layers from the back up, which means if I put a dark color on here right now, when I go to put the next layer, unless it's darker than that, it's probably not going to show up the way you want it to. But the more you play with it, the more you understand how layering works. So what I've decided to do, got it covered up, is I'm starting out with Shocking Pink. And the reason for that is I'm going with a pink on the flowers. I could have picked a different color, but I'm going to stay with a pink. And it's a little bit brighter. And I am also using the Interference ink, which is really cool ink. It's different than this blending ink. This has a little bit of shimmer to it. But what's really unique about the Interference ink is if you put it on white paper, it's one color. If you put it on black paper, it has a different color. So this side, always on every pad that you get that's Interference, this will be your white color, this will be your black color. It's really cool. But today, again, I'm not doing that. I am using the texture paste. So to start, I'm going to do this first layer, and it does not have texture paste on it. The next layer will. So these areas are slightly big, but it's not going to matter. So I'm going to be using a stencil brush. This particular one is not Lisa's, but Lisa has ones that are great. Hers tend to have her name on it, and they are silver. I have a few gold ones that I've also purchased. Being in the US, I was able to find some. So anyway, I'm going to start with the ink, and lots of times they'll come off from the side, so it's not as dark when you get into that. Because if you it's just like any ink pad, if you go dropping in, it's going to be dark. So you just come in from the sides. And actually, I'm trying to think if I just want to focus on doing the flowers and the texture paste. But I think I'm going to go ahead and build it, because these pieces down here are not the flowers. And the other thing I want to tell you is the card I showed you, I did the flowers twice. So you can do it, so you just do the flowers and only do what it is that you need for your design. You don't need two vases probably, and there's a vase included on the stencil. And again, this is more of a building your own design. A lot of Lisa's stencils are already built for you, although you could always break those down too if you wanted to. But they're usually all set up to make, you know, like one design. This one allows you to build your own, which is why it's called Elements. You can even add these. This one's a Floribunda. You can even add these. She's got, and I don't remember the name of it, but she's actually has a design Floribunda vase. I think it's called Vase. And it already has all the flowers built in there for you, but you can add these to it if you want to. So you can kind of see how I'm doing that. All of these are the same flowers. You can change this out and stencil it whatever way you want. Say you want to have more than one color in here, you can do that. It's just the more you play, the more you get it. But right now, because again, I'm doing something different, I'm adding the texture paste, I'm staying with the one color because it's not going to show up too much. Let's see if I can make sense. The first layer usually is all of the outlines. And it's like if you were going to design something and line draw it, this is what your line drawings would be. Like typically if you get a digital image or a stamped image, you have black. If you stamp it in black, this basically will be like your black outline, your first layer. At least for the flowers it is. It'll make sense as I'm going. I kind of keep the centers a little bit light too. Again, it's not going to matter for the texture one, but all right, so I'm going to show you the picture. So what I'm building are these, even though these are all the same color, on here she has the roses are yellow and then these flowers are pink because they're not roses. And then right now down here at the bottom, I'm going to be building this vase. And this part right here is basically the whole top there, and then this little bit right there is kind of like the, I don't know, band. So for this, I went ahead, I'm going to show you the picture, and I used a tan, and I'll show you that. And the tan that I used, yeah, is the Almond Frosting. And because I'm going to go ahead and add this to it because I'm doing it. So, so what I'm going to do for this is I'm just coming in here. Now, if I wanted it to be a color, I can still add color, and you'll see how I'll do that later. So that'll be kind of like the normal part of this if I was going to do a stencil the right way without texture paste. There's not going to be any texture paste on this vase. Now I'm doing it from the sides, like I'm really shading and leaving that center a little bit light, and you'll see why. This could be, I could change this out to gold or whatever I want to later. All right, so that's my first layer. Normally it doesn't take that long, but I wanted to tell you some of the tips. And that's what you get. All right, so the next layer is where we would add, I would add the texture paste, but because I want to do that closer to the last so I can get some of this other done, I'm going to go ahead and do this first, and you'll see what I mean. So I'm going to go ahead and get this vase done. And again, I'm going to still use the tan. And I'm also going to show you how I'm going to add to this tan. And you can bring back your past stencils and add more colors to the top. I'll show you. Right now I'm trying to get this to have more of a 3D look, even though we're going to be using the 3D embossing folder. All right, so I've got to do this centerpiece up there. This is what's inside, so it would be shaded a lot more. Okay? All right, so the next thing to give it a little bit of a different look is I'm going to be adding, this has turned out to be my favorite ink. It's called Spiced Plum. And find the best. I think this will work. So I'm going to come back in here really lightly and add some of the Spiced Plum. It's not going to matter a whole lot. I end up covering up that circle up there at the top when I build the design. All right, so you're going to see that gives it a little bit of different look. Now, really, if I wasn't going to be covering this up here, I would just totally put more of this in. I'm just going to show you what that looks like anyway. See, I didn't come to the side as much for this one. I went straight on. You can see what I'm saying when you have more of a bunch in that area. All right. So that's what that would look like. Now, I'm going back one step because I do want to add a little bit of purple more purple. I was going to do gold, but I'm going to just do purple right here. And if I want to highlight the top in purple, this is the time to do it, just to add a little bit. So that's how I do the vase. And that vase is done. Okay, so now we're done with that vase. And that's what it looks like. So again, I'm skipping the number 2 because I want to do texture paste at the end because I can't keep putting the stencils on top of it once it's wet. So we're going to go ahead and keep building. Number 4 happens to be, we're starting to build our, get these out of the way. We're starting to build our leaves, foliage. And for that, I am going to be using, again, one of my favorites is Eucalyptus Leaves, although I can't spell that very great, and Woodland Moss. So what I like to do is, I start with the Eucalyptus Leaves because it's a little bit darker and it has some blue to it. So I'm going to use this pencil or this stencil brush. So what I like to do is I think of it in terms of shading. And so I'm coming with it from the bottom and going up. And this part right here actually looks like eucalyptus. Is that right? Yeah. And then I look at the picture just to see where that shading would be, to see the direction it's going. Although it also kind of like suggests in a way for you to do more than one. Like this is supposed to be one color of leaf and then you have a different color of leaves. And I just haven't done it that way. You can. So that's kind of like how I start. Oh, we get these a little bit better. And then I pull out the Woodland Moss. Yeah, I said Woodland Moss to you. Okay, Woodland Moss is more of a yellow green. And I come from the top because I feel like it's lighter. And I just try to blend that down. Okay. And if you want it to look a little bit different, you can add different greens or whatever, make it more of a variety. I just tend to do it this way. I could have made those darker. And what I did for this particular one, because I've made 2 of these, I decided to add a little bit of the purple. Again, I told you my favorite. If you add the spiced plum, it gives it more of a succulent, I think that's the word, look. But I just liked it. I think it's just because it's my new favorite. So very lightly, I am adding this purple. And I think I did it for all of them. Yep. Ever so lightly. This takes it a little bit longer, adding these extra layers. If you just wanted it plain green, it would have been done. And it would look great. Okay, so this layer's done. That's layer 4. And that's the look for that. All right, then we've got 2 more layers left, which really isn't taking us very long. And this again is part of the green leaves. And again, I'm going to start with the Eucalyptus Leaves. And honestly, by having this ink on here, it really does blend a little bit with the next ink I use, which is the Woodland Moss. Now I can leave it that way if I want part of it to be the different colors. You can see what that looked like, but I'm going to still add that purple. Okay, that was all that was on the number 5. So technically that's done. Again, like I said, if you want more foliage, which I did for that card, you can be doing this more than once. So this technically would be right here for when I get done with the when I get done with the texture paste. But this right here, I can go ahead and add. So I'll be all finished with that. And I'm just going to go ahead and use Eucalyptus Leaves. So that's done. And you can see, you know what, I think I'm going to add a little bit more of that purple to that because it looks too bright. So it blends in better. Okay. That looks better. All right, now for the fun part that you kind of like wanted to see what I did. And that is with a texture paste. And in order to create the texture paste, the color, I would use a medium matte, except for, okay, what am I doing? There it is. I was gonna say I was missing a lid. All right, so I'm using this acrylic. It's not really acrylic block. I talked about this in my last video. This actually was something I got at a charity shop. It's acrylic, but it was a frame, because you see it has magnet, and it was before you could actually really buy big acrylic blocks. So I'm going to move this out of the way just temporarily so I can show you how I mix and make the texture paste. So I am using the Interference Pink Champagne. And all I'm going to do is smush that down. I want to make sure I have enough. That looks like I will, because otherwise I have to add. Now remember, if you're going to make more than one set, your colors won't be the same, because unless you are able to do them all at the same time. Like I would have gone through and made 2 of those at one time instead of just doing it for the first time. So anyway, texture paste. And I really like, this is Ranger texture paste, opaque matte. I like the consistency of this one. I have another one, but it's a little bit more like, it's lighter. All right. So basically all you're going to do is mix that in there, right? And I'm going to need more than that, I can tell you that straight away. Maybe. And obviously the more you put, the lighter the color it gets. I'm trying to make it so I don't get too much more of this in the texture paste. Okay. All right. So you can see that I'm mixing that up with that and getting that color. And again, like I said, it'll be darker if you don't have as much, because it's white. So the more white you add to it, the lighter it gets. And I want mine to be a little bit lighter this time. I'll use all of this. Okay, that looks pretty good. I think I like that color. All right, so now we're going to bring back what we're using. I have to keep this to the side, and I'm bringing the stencil back. And the one that I want is the one that I did not use. There it is. All right, so this is just going to go straight on top of here. And that's why I wait to use this one, because it has the details. All right, so we take up some of this stencil paste. And let me tell you something too. You should be able to use a flash paste that Lisa just created. That should work for these too, and it would be beautiful. So that's how, actually I have plenty. So if I don't wait too long, I'll be able to make another set. All right, so how you kind of do it, I mean, you want enough to fill in. I'll put that closer so you can see. Yeah, I've got plenty. Now, when Tim Holtz does this, he likes to have some texture, and I'm just going to show you, I'm not going to end up doing it, but if you want texture, you just go back in like this, and you give that a little bit of texture. I'm not going to do that this time. I'm just going to make it smooth. And that's what you get. And then you lift this up. And that's what you get. I think I might have slightly moved, but it's not really going to matter. Now, you will not be able to put this through the 3D embossing folder. I will put these through the embossing folder, but not those. So now basically all you do is you let that dry, and then you will come back through and put that last one on, and I will show you that also. But I'm just letting you know, you let these dry, and then you put this last stencil on. So I'm going to go ahead and make some more flowers so I can use up my paste, and I'll be back. Okay, so these have dried well enough that I can go ahead and add that little bit on top. So in order to line this back up, I have to basically get those lined up in where they should be. And I'm kind of like really lining up this one up here, because that was really exclusive to this particular stencil layer. Okay, so they're raised up a little bit because there's texture, so that there's a little bit of dimension. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take a look at what I did on the other card. Okay, I don't think I did much, but I'm trying to think of the color that I want to do. I don't really want it to pop too terribly much, but at the same time, I know that I am going to be putting more purple on it. So I'm going to hold this down, because like I said, it's raised. And I'm going to lightly put the purple on it. I'm also going to hand cut out the flowers, because again, like I said, I can't cut them. It'll mess them up in the cutting machine. They're too thick. So I will hand cut them. One other thing I wanted to tell you is that as soon as you get done, don't wait too long to clean off your stencil, because the texture paste can stick to it. So yeah, that gives it a little bit of, not a whole lot of anything, but these center pieces, there's also a stencil for that, and I've already taken care of that. But technically, I'm just going to do this. There's a stencil for this. You don't need to do this, but to be honest with you, I was going to go like that to it anyway, because I wanted a little bit more depth. And I will do that with the roses as well. Give it a little bit more dimension. And you can also put a gem in these. Would work really well. So I'm going to come back in here to the edge of these, because they're all raised up anyway, with the purple. And give it some more depth in terms of light and dark, because I'm going to be hand cutting these out anyway. Trying to see if you can see. I think you can see that okay. I could get that just a tad bit closer. And you can even see it better on this other one. Okay. That's all I'm doing, is just adding a little bit of shading to the edges. And I did make another set. And I wanted to show you one other thing you can do. I'm going to add to that too, but that's not part of this project. But I wanted to use up all of my paste because otherwise I just have to throw it away. Okay, so now for the roses, what I did in the other one is I just added a little bit to the center here. You can do it whatever you want to, but it's just what I did. And then again, I did the same thing around the edges. It tones it down so it's not as bright, but then the bright part of it kind of like highlights it. And like I said, I will hand cut these out the way they are, leave the foliage in here, and then cut the foliage out just like you would, except for the roses won't be in here. So I don't mess with them at all, the foliage or the vase. Now, if for some reason it doesn't line up, I will just hand cut the base, but I think everything will be fine. Okay, so I will hand cut those out to put those on, and then the rest of this will be cut with the die, and that will work. All right, so I wanted to show you really quickly because I had extra paste, so I just put it on white. So I can come back in with that stencil and go on top of it, the very first stencil, and add colors to the background if I want to. So, but this will work really good to do something even like this for journaling, mixed media. You just use any of those like that. They're really pretty, quite frankly. You can just add anything to the top of them. So I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of this together so I can show you. I thought I'd show you really quick what would happen if you added a juicy pineapple to the top of this once it's all dry. It actually changes, obviously, if you mix these two colors together, that would make like an orange. If you did pink and yellow, it would make a light type of an orange. So it kind of like changes it. You get a different color flower. You can see the difference there. And then you can go ahead and still use those for, I think this one was, yeah, that one went there. So just trying to show you, you can still do this in a different way. You can just stencil it if you want to with a texture paste. And then you'd still have to hand cut these. But they would still make, like I said, they'd make, if you don't want to cut them and put them like in a journal or something different, just straight ahead on your card. It seems to work. Just wanted you to see. See if I can line that back up. Yep. So now I have one more thing I have to make. But just thought I'd just show you that. So I'll get these other things cut out, and so I can show you how I basically arrange them, because you can do it whatever way you want. So, all right, I'll be back. Okay, so I'd like to get this finished up. So far I have gotten everything cut out but this one, because I thought I'd show you really quickly how I did cut it out, because in case someone did ask, I would have one. Now, what I want to tell you is when I made my card, the original card, I actually inked the edges after I cut them out. So if you don't like the white on the edges, I would say to ink it up with the purple if you want to. I think I probably will before I actually put it on the card. Anyway, and maybe it won't. It may look fine depending on what I'm putting it on. If I put it on white, it won't matter. So anyway, I wanted to show you, this This is not how I did it originally, but this works out better this way, I think, after doing it the other way. So I've got those ready. Those cannot be embossed. However, I want to show you this. Let me pull this up a little bit. And this is what we use to emboss what we want embossed. And this is what you get. You get this die to cut all of it, and then you get this embossing folder. So obviously I'm not doing that with the entire amount. So all you do is you line this up with what you have on here, and you run that through your die cutting machine. And then once you do that, you bring it back, and you're going to have to individually put them in here, because I try to do them more at one time and they move and it just doesn't work. So I'm going to go ahead and die cut this, and I will emboss them. I'll show you how I'm going to emboss them, and then I'll emboss them. Okay, so I'm going to show you what the sandwich is. I use the Big Shot when I go to do the embossing. And basically, I probably do this every time. I'm going to go do so you know what the sandwich is. The essential platform, the basic platform, and then you need the thin die adapter. And it doesn't need to be the extended version. It's just what I use because I have some bigger dies. And then you'll need this one plate. You do not need two plates like you would as shown on here for your die. So when you go to do your embossing folder, again, the tip that I really appreciated from the Lisa Horton DTs is that to know the top and to know, well, how do I say it? To know which side is up, let's just put it that way. The thicker part, there's, what do you want to call it? Two flaps. The thinner flap goes in the back, the thicker flap goes in the top. And one other way to double check that is whatever is raised up will obviously emboss it up. If you want it to be D, and you know, the deboss part, it makes it go down. So this is up. And basically what I do is I grab the top, I line that up as best you can, just like that. And then I close it, I pinch it, close it, and I put this on my plate, and I put the plate on top of that, and I run it through my machine. And that's how I die cut Lisa's 3D embossing folders. Okay, so I decided, looking at my card that I made it originally, I did ink up a little bit more on the edges, so not so much white showed. So I just left a few of them here to show you how I did that. So I just went around, like I said, the edge is not too tough to get this. And then that's done, so I've got all those done. Did the same with this, so there's not as much of the white edges showing. It really depends on what the background paper is. If it's white, it's not going to really matter. But if you're going to put something, the white will pop. And I know I'm not going to probably put it on solid white. I got a little bit more on there than I intended, but that's okay. That won't matter for when I go to put the flowers on. So if you go over just a little bit like that, you can even come back and brush that out. It's not that big of a deal. It'll just look like part of the pot. So anyway, the leaves. Just be careful. Oh, I got that a little bit dark too. Just be careful that you don't bend them up. They're a little bit more fine, like this one. Could bend up if you decide to do this. Okay, so basically that's all you do, and then you're going to construct your card. I don't think it's going to be that hard for me just to show you the layout. You can do this whatever way you want to. Basically you're going to have your background. I do have a background I can use really quick just to show you. Hold on, I need to get that out. Here it is. Okay, just to show you, this is white. It's not what I'm probably going to use. This is vintage tile, and it's really cool. It's one of my favorites. If you could see all the really pretty and designs, and you can use this either way. Okay, so we'll just use this as our backdrop. It's not probably what I'm going to use. So you decide where you want your vase, right? And then you just start, basically it's like flower arranging, except for you're doing it with paper. And your bigger pieces, obviously your focal point. And then you come in with different flowers behind. Kind of like looking at the ones that I did previously. Yep. And this one's going to have to come down a little bit further. Because I am going to cover the top of that because there's really not any vines in this to, I don't know how to explain it. There's no vines there. Stems, that's what I should say. So, like I said, I make an arrangement and then I actually take a photo of it so that I know how I arranged it, and I can go ahead and put that back on the way I had put it. Okay. So, and then I also use, depending on where everything's located, I used foam tape or I glue it straight down, depending on if I want things to be raised up. So, that's basically how I arranged the other one. Obviously, it's hard to tuck the leaves or foliage in unless you leave a little bit of the foam tape up. So just to give an idea, you can like just place these things in. It'll move a little bit because obviously it's not attached. Okay, and you can use my photo as a reference too. One way you can do that is screenshot it and then you can use it as a reference. That's going to be moved. It's not going to be exactly that way, but that's kind of like how I do it. I'm going to have one extra foliage. Okay, so that's how I would arrange it. And I have one extra one. I can use it for something else. So, and then I actually put the sentiment down here. And that's the sentiment I used. Let me show you what one that is. There are many. Lisa just came out with several. And I have two. So, there's a birthday one. And there's one that just says you, and it's got all the things that go with it. So this one I did just for you. And I put that on the bottom. So anyway, that's how the your arrangement can work. That's how your card can go. I hope that's helpful. And it gave you a little bit more inspiration as to what you can do with Lisa's embossing folders and stencils. I'll have whatever it is I use. I'll try to have everything I used in the description below so that you know what I use. Thanks for stopping by.